This is a really brief description of how the script for the Topo Collage mini workflow works. So, um, we start with something pretty basic, which is bringing geometry in from the area's layers. And the way we do that is by defining the area's parent name with a double colon. That means there's going to be, child layers after that. So any child layer is always defined this way. We say areas concrete. So that you use the colon to define the concrete layer if there were a concrete layer there. So that works nicely, and then you can add a wild card, and the wild card says anything else will match, and so it's areas green, areas asphalt, areas paving, areas path. That will all work. We also tell it that curves will work as well as surfaces and or B reps as they're called in this environment. Then in Rhino 8, and these are tricky because these will not work in Rhino 7, and we may need to make some updates if they don't work for you. But we're grabbing the content details of each object. We get that object's layer, name, and color. And we use all that data to build areas. So we have the geometry, which is mostly these, mostly surfaces, but some of them come in at, the curves will come in, closed curves will come in as surfaces as well. And then we have the layer list. So these are the names of the layers. And then we have the color of each layer. All of that data gets associated with the areas and is persistent with the areas. So every time when you do things like collaging or clipping those areas with a clip boundary, you are going to get a bunch of areas coming out, and it's whatever is left, but it still associates all of those, all that data, like the color and the surfaces. And then you can draw those and project them to the topography as projected meshes. And then for every single projected mesh, there is a layer, there is a color. And we can then use that to preview as well as bake those geometries. So if we look here, one of the things we're doing is we're adding to the layer name. So we say we can concatenate that name. So we add the the prefix baked area meshes to any given name. So here you can see that once we bake that, those names are under the baked area meshes, and also similarly with bake area hatches, where we're pulling out the geometry and getting the names and actually creating new areas. And part of the reason we do that is so that we can actually change the name. There's actually maybe an opportunity for a new component, which is to help change the name of an area without having to do all of this. In this case, then you can bake those two hatches. And that's a very simple component that is going to take whatever the layer name is of the area and bake that to that layer. Bake that area geometry to that layer. So as a hatch. And so when you click this button, it says overwrite and bake at the same time. Up here, the overwriting happens through a bake name. So it's areas projected. So anything that's named areas projected will be replaced every time. So anytime you change it and you hit bake, it will replace the old baked geometries. And I think that's it. There are a number of other fun things you can do with collaged areas. Be sure to look at the other mini workflow videos. One of which I think, just thinking about it now, is cutting contours or cutting sections, getting line work, and calculating carbon. And hopefully we'll have workflows for those as well. Or you can create your own workflow using and combining these different workflows.